But a Home Secretary can never be complacent, and some things still need fixing. I'm pleased to be working with a brilliant team of ministers who I'm so pleased to see with us today. Tom Tugendhat, Tom Pursglove, Jeremy Quinn, Mims Davies and Lord Andrew Sharp, supported by our excellent PPSs, Gareth Davies and Sean Bailey. They all bring talent and expertise to the Home Office. Now, the Prime Minister and I want to see homicide, serious violence and neighbourhood crime fall by 20%. Some of our most committed and courageous people serve in the police. In Belfast, absolutely. In Belfast last week, I joined police leaders to pay tribute to those officers who have died in action. Their ultimate sacrifice is one for which we owe a huge debt of gratitude. So yes, I'm immensely proud of our police. Now, many on the left, they want to defund the police. Well, I say to the militants, I say to the anarchists and the extremists, no, I will always back our police men and women. That's what being on the side of the law-abiding majority means. But we also need to be frank when things go wrong. Some police officers have fallen devastatingly short of the standards expected. We need to get back to common sense policing, empowering the police to tackle the issues facing the public, not policing pronouns on Twitter or non-crime. Not policing non-crime hate incidents. That's why I'm very pleased to see that Greater Manchester Police, Hampshire, Bedfordshire, Northamptonshire and the Metropolitan Police have all promised now to visit the scene of every burglary. But the law-abiding majority expect every force to investigate every neighbourhood crime, and so do I. Drugs, car theft, vandalism and antisocial behaviour cannot be ignored. Perhaps the most unsettling and unspeakable crime of all is rape. Now, as an MP and as the Attorney General, I've already seen firsthand how the system needs to do better. I can't change things overnight, but I will not accept the status quo. Now, policing is a public service and must be accountable to you, the public. That's why it's right that we publish league tables that show how well every force in England and Wales is doing in their fight against crime. You all have the right to know, and greater transparency will drive up standards. Now, the modern world inevitably brings new challenges. Our National Security Bill will ensure that law enforcement and intelligence agencies have the tools that they need to stay ahead of the country's ever more sophisticated adversaries. Yet everything starts from getting the basics right. We need common sense policing, unashamedly, unapologetically, on the side of the law-abiding majority. And that means that the mob needs to be stopped. The police must have all the powers that they need to stop the protesters who use guerrilla tactics and bring chaos and misery to the law-abiding majority. It's not a human right to vandalise property. It's not my freedom of expression to protest violently. No, you can't just start a riot or glue yourself to the roads and get away with it. Yes, friends, as Attorney General, I had to go to court to get some of these simple truths established. The judges agreed with me last week in the Court of Appeal in the Colston statue case. And that's why our Public Order Bill will empower our police to stop this nuisance. So whether you're Just Stop Oil or Insulate Britain or Extinction Rebellion, you cross a line when you break the law, and that's why we'll keep putting you behind bars. Now, it's very easy to say that the culture wars are a distraction. But make no mistake, the left are attacking our profound, elemental values, wanting to replace them with the poison of identity politics. And when this poison seeps into the public sphere, it distracts our public servants from doing their real job. That philosophy dominates the Labour Party, whatever Sir Keir Starmer pretends. And that's why it's not only wrong for the police to take the knee, it is wrong for them to join in with political demonstrations. It is wrong for biologically male police officers to strip search female suspects. And it's not just that pandering to identity politics is a huge waste of time. They need to stick to catching the bad guys. Now, those who dismiss political correctness as a conservative obsession, I say this. I say visit Rochdale, visit Telford. The grooming gang scandal is a stain on this country, and it's what happens when political correctness becomes more important than criminal justice. More PCs, less PC. Now, my other mission is to control our borders. Firstly, legal migration. Now, I backed Brexit because I wanted Britain to have control over our migration and to cut overall numbers. Brexit was meant to give us a say on how we determine our own migration policy. We should use our newfound control to deliver the kind of migration that grows our economy. For example, that helps projects that have stalled or builds friendships and relationships with our allies. But the truth is, parts of our system aren't delivering. We need to end the abuse of the rules, and we need to cut down on those numbers that aren't meeting the needs of our economy. And we mustn't forget how to do things for ourselves. There is absolutely no reason why we can't train up enough of our own HGV drivers or butchers or fruit pickers. The way we build a high-skilled, high-wage economy is by encouraging business to invest in capital and domestic labour, not relying wholly on low-skilled foreign workers. Now, this just isn't just about policy or economics for me. It's intensely personal. My parents came to this country in the 1960s from Kenya and Mauritius. They loved Britain from afar as children of the the Commonwealth. It was Britain that offered them security and opportunity as young adults. I'm not embarrassed to say that I love Britain. No Conservative is. It's not racist for anyone, ethnic minority or otherwise, to want to control our borders. It's not bigoted to say that we have too many asylum seekers who are abusing the system. It's not xenophobic to say that mass and rapid migration places pressure on housing, public services, and community relations. I reject the left's argument that it is hypocritical for someone from an ethnic minority to tell these truths. My parents came here through legal and controlled migration. They spoke the language. They threw themselves into the community. They embraced British values. When they arrived, they signed up to be part of our shared project because the United Kingdom meant something distinct. Integration was part of the quid pro quo. Now, that didn't mean abandoning their heritage, but it did mean adopting British identity, an identity of which we should all be proud. This is the best place on earth to come and live in, but I fear that we are losing sight of the core values and the culture that made it so. The unexamined drive towards multiculturalism as an end in itself, combined with the corrosive aspects of identity politics, has led us astray. I saw this when I went to Leicester recently, a melting pot of cultures and a beacon of religious harmony. But even there, riots and civil disorder have taken place because of failures to integrate large numbers of newcomers. Such conflict has no place in the UK. Or when we look at the Prevent scheme, we see how cultural tensions within communities are not being handled well enough. The murderer of our much-missed dear friend, Sir David Amess, had been referred to Prevent, but it couldn't stop him. We cannot, as a people, be cowed into fear by vocal minorities who attempt to undermine our common sense instincts. And as Home Secretary, I will make sure that Prevent is fit for purpose. The law-abiding majority deserve nothing less. And lastly, we've got to stop the boats crossing the Channel. This has gone on for far too long. But I have to be straight with you. There are no quick fixes, and the problem is chronic. Organised criminal gangs are selling a lie to thousands of people. Many are drowning in the Channel. Many are leaving a safe country like France and abusing our asylum system. So what's our plan? Firstly, our work with the French has prevented about half of all the crossings. Now, I know that that alone will not work, so I will work closely with the French to get more out of our partnership, both on the French coastline and further upstream against the organised criminal gangs. Secondly, we need to find a way to make the Rwanda scheme work. Thirdly, we need to do more to get asylum seekers out of hotels, currently costing the British taxpayer £5 million a day. And fourth, we cannot allow a foreign court to undermine the sovereignty of our borders. For a few months ago, the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg did just that. By a closed process, with an unnamed judge and without any representation by the UK, a European court overrode our Supreme Court. And as a result, our first flight to Rwanda was grounded. We need to take back control. But friends, I need to be honest with you. The Strasbourg court is not the only problem. Now, everyone agrees that we must fight the evil of modern slavery. I'm immensely proud of this country's global leadership in protecting genuine victims. But the hard truth is that our modern slavery laws are being abused by people gaming the system. We've seen a 450% increase in modern slavery claims since 2014. Today, the largest group of small boats migrants are from Albania, a safe country. Many of them claim to be trafficked as modern slaves. That's despite them having paid thousands of pounds to come here, or having willingly taken a dangerous journey on the Channel. The truth is that many of them are not modern slaves, and their claims of being trafficked are lies. And it's not just illegal migrants. Since entering the Home Office, I have seen egregious examples of convicted paedophiles and rapists trying to game the system, making last-minute claims of modern slavery to block their removal from the country. Some have even gone on to commit further crimes in the interim. In one case, a convicted sex offender from South Africa had spent a year in prison. He was about to be deported from the United Kingdom, and lo and behold, he made a claim of modern slavery. Our removal was stalled, and in this time, he went on to commit a further rape. He's now behind bars, but when he's released, well, it's all so terribly predictable. In another case, a paedophile from Pakistan received 10 years in prison, but at the end of his prison sentence, he put in a spurious claim to be a modern slave. And even when he got through that process, he made a second claim, which blocked his removal. We simply cannot go on like this. We need to make sure that our system strikes the right balance. Our laws need to be resilient against abuse, whilst at the same time ensuring that we help those in genuine need. We've got a proud history of offering sanctuary to those in need, from supporting the thousands of BNOs fleeing persecution in Hong Kong, to welcoming nearly 20,000 Afghan nationals fleeing war and terror, to offering immediate refuge to thousands of Ukrainians fleeing Putin's barbarism. The UK and this Conservative government has always been there to hold out the hand of hope to those who need it most. But the law simply isn't working. It isn't working in the interests of the British people or people who need our help the most. Our laws are being abused. Abused by people smugglers and criminals peddling false promises. Abused by people making multiple, meritless and last-minute claims. Abused by tactics from from specialist small boat chasing law firms. This cannot continue. So, Conference, I will commit to you today that I will look to bring forward legislation to make it clear that the only route to the United Kingdom is through a safe and legal route. And that's so that we can help support those who need our help the most, including women and girls. So if you deliberately enter the United Kingdom illegally from a safe country, you should be swiftly returned to your home country or relocated to Rwanda. That is where your asylum claim will be considered. UK policy on illegal migration should not be derailed by abuse of our modern slavery laws, Labour's Human Rights Act, or orders of the Strasbourg Court. And we will always, of course, work within the bounds of international law, but we cannot allow this abuse of our system to continue. And of course, at the same time, we need to stamp out illegal working practices. We already have some of the toughest penalties for those not playing by our rules, but we will redouble our efforts to go after them. But I need to be straight with you, Conference. This will not be easy. I cannot promise you a solution immediately. We've all heard pledges and promises, but this problem is complex and entrenched. And there are many forces working against us. The Labour Party will try to stop this. The Lib Dem will go bananas. The Guardian will have a meltdown. As for the lawyers, don't get me started on the lawyers. And I'm a recovering lawyer. But what I can pledge to you is my total and undeniable and unfettered and unconditional commitment to doing whatever it takes. And despite those obstacles, I won't give up on you, and I won't give up on the British people. Very kind of you, I hadn't actually finished. My goodness. Now, if I don't get a standing ovation at the end, what do I make of that? Ladies and gentlemen, friends, Conference, the time for words is over. Now is the time for action. It's time to put the will of the hard-working, patriotic majority at the heart of all we do. It's time for the police to stop virtue signalling and start catching robbers and burglars. It's time to tackle the small boats, no ifs, no buts. Friends, it's time for common sense. I stand ready to serve you. I stand ready to deliver. The time is ours. The time is now. Thank you, Conference.
Please welcome the Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly.
Thank you, thank you. A little bit of reshuffling going on there. Cool. Oh, look, thank you, conference. It's great to be back together. Great to be back as a party, as a family. And I want to say a big thank you to Jake Berry, our chairman, because organising a conference is a mammoth undertaking. And a big thank you to our staff, our volunteers, and of course a huge thank you to you, our party members. I loved being party chairman. I really did. I got a chance to work with you all, I got a chance to work with Ben, my co-chairman, and I got to work alongside Boris. And if I remember rightly, we did okay, didn't we? We got an 80-seat majority. We had a great team of MPs elected from all over our country, and with Boris's leadership, we delivered Brexit. He got us through COVID. And of course, he led the world in our support for Ukraine. It's a legacy that he should be proud of, and I was proud to serve under him. And it's a legacy that I know Liz Truss will build upon. And I've seen her take bold action when she was Foreign Secretary. Her steadfast support for Ukraine and the way she stood up to Russia. Her passion for the defence of our union and her determination to promote democracy and freedom around the world. And as Prime Minister, she is being bold now, helping with energy bills, ensuring that you can see a doctor promptly, reducing the taxes paid by ordinary, hard-working people across the country. I backed her from the start, and I know that I made the right choice. I am the Foreign Secretary of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. I have to confess, it still sounds a little strange coming out of my mouth, but it is an honour, a genuine honour, to be the face and voice of our country overseas. Okay, yeah, why not? I'm the UK's sales guy. And I like to think I'm pretty good at sales. I mean, I hope so. For most of my adult life, that's what paid the bills. But I know that however good a salesperson I aspire to be, the greatest salesperson the UK ever had was Her late Majesty, Queen Elizabeth. She was our greatest diplomat, our greatest advocate, our greatest champion. She genuinely was Elizabeth the Great. And I've now also had the honour of meeting King Charles. And I know he will work tirelessly to continue the work that she did and be our new great ambassador. During the funeral week of Her late Majesty, I was reminded of the standing that our country has in the world. And when I travel on behalf of our country, I'm lucky enough to see us, to see the UK as others see us. And I can tell you, the view of here from over there is really, really good. It's not a terribly fashionable thing to be proud of your country. But I am, so sue me. My mother chose to make this country her home. She was a young woman from Sierra Leone who adored this country then, just as I adore this country now. Indeed, I am from immigrant stock on both sides of my family. As I say, my mother came here from Sierra Leone in 1966, and my dad's family came here from Normandy in 1066. Look, there will always be people that talk down our country. They will belittle our achievements. They will underestimate our standing. Those self-loathing keyboard warriors who hate our country's every success and pray for bad news. Those are the kind of people who aren't happy until they're unhappy. They're the kind of people who want to stand on the sidelines, never contributing, only moaning and bleating. But that isn't us. That isn't this party. That isn't this government. That isn't this country. We aren't commentators watching on the sidelines saying, oh, I wouldn't have done it like that. We are players on the pitch. We make a difference. We promote our values. We compete on the world stage for the things that we know to be right. We believe in freedom. We believe in the rule of law. And we believe that an aggressor cannot invade its neighbour with impunity. And that conference is why we stand shoulder to shoulder with those brave Ukrainians defending their homeland. And Britain has to have the strategic endurance to see this through until their victory. Back in February this year, at the United Nations, I said that if Putin was foolish enough to attempt to invade Ukraine, the Ukrainians would defend their country ferociously. And they have done just that. Their bravery and passion have been amplified by the arms and the training that the UK has supplied. And we will support them until this war is won. We will support them until their territorial integrity is restored. And we will support them until the last Russian tank is dragged away by the last Ukrainian tractor. We need to have the strategic endurance to see this through to the end. Because if we don't, we send a message to every potential aggressor that our resolve is fragile. And we cannot, we must not, we will not send that message out into the world. And if you are listening to this speech, Mr. Putin or Mr. Lavrov, let me be clear. We will never recognize the annexation of Luhansk or Donetsk or Kherson or Zaporizhia or Crimea. They are Ukraine. And when Ukraine has won this war, and they will, then we will support them as they rebuild their homes, rebuild their economy, and rebuild their society. We will work with our friends and allies around the world to hold the perpetrators to account, to punish those who use rape as a weapon of war, to punish those who knowingly target civilian infrastructure, and to punish those who murder women and children. And we will not do this alone. We are a member of many international groups, the Commonwealth, NATO, the UN Security Council, AUKUS, the G7, the G20. And I intend to build more alliances, more friendships, more partnerships around the globe. That's why we have ambassadors and high commissioners and diplomats in hundreds of locations. It's why I and my fantastic team of ministers travel the world. Trust me. It isn't to pick up those giant Toblerones. Although I do like those giant Toblerones. Look, when there is a war, our work on the international stage is visible and it's obvious. Building coalitions of condemnation at the United Nations, for example. Coordinating sanctions against those who facilitate the war, working to ensure that the exports of food and fertilizer from those Black Sea ports can continue. But much of what the FCDO does is less visible, but no less important. I've just returned from a series of meetings in East and Southeast Asia. I paid my respects at the funeral of Japan's former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Then I went to the Republic of Korea, and then to Singapore. In each country, I met with senior ministers. I met with members of the international business community. I set out the detail of the UK's Indo-Pacific tilt. The Indo-Pacific is a part of the world which is growing fast. And through trade agreements, cooperation agreements, and our ASEAN dialogue partner status, we are shrinking the distance between us. I spoke about the opportunities that are available to us all. And of course, I spoke about the role that China plays in the region and around the globe. I made our position clear that China could and should take a different path, that it should adhere to the rules and norms of the international community, and it should stop persecuting its people at home, and it should stop sanctioning my friends and colleagues in the UK Parliament. And whilst I was on the other side of the world, FCDO ministers were in the USA, in European capitals, in Africa. And a number of my ministers are overseas as I speak. Because we have to invest in our international partnerships. Patient, but effective diplomacy. We invest time, we invest energy, and yes, we invest money. Because that's how we generate influence on the world stage. And that's how we drive improvements in the lives of people overseas and how we improve the lives of people here in the UK. The development money that we spend, our official development assistance or ODA, it helps women and children who have been brutalised by conflict. It helps prevent starvation. We use our expertise in financial services through the British investment partnerships to amplify the money that we provide, to part fund green energy projects, for example, or to increase trade, or to stimulate economic growth in some of the least developed countries in the world. We don't just stand idly by and watch problems happen. We step in to improve things. We're not passive, but we're active. It's the right thing to do. It helps people that need our help, but it also helps people here at home in the UK. Why? Because safe, secure and prosperous countries don't generate refugees or hundreds of thousands of migrants. Safe, secure and prosperous countries don't export terrorism. Safe, secure and prosperous countries are good trade partners for us. So obviously, we want to see more safe, secure and prosperous countries. That is the active role our ODA, our Official Development Assistance, plays. But just because we look to build prosperity in distant places, we mustn't forget the need to build prosperity closer to home. A good diplomatic and economic relationship with the EU and its member states is good for all of us. And we've worked closely on our sanctions packages against Russia and those Russians that have enabled the war in Ukraine. And I want to see more cooperation across the Channel and across the Irish Sea. And addressing the current problems with the Northern Ireland Protocol is key to doing that. And I want to ensure that we restore the integrity of the UK internal market. I want to protect north-south trade, but I also want to restore the balance of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement, which has been disrupted by the protocol. I want to see all the communities in Northern Ireland represented again at the Stormont Executive, so that devolved government can be properly re-established. And I will work hard to get that done. Last week, I spoke to the EU's lead negotiator, Vice President Maros Sefcovic, and we agreed on our desire to reach a solution that works for all parts of the UK, especially the people of Northern Ireland. So we have the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill working its way through Parliament, and in the meantime, we continue to pursue a negotiated settlement which respects the constitutional integrity of the United Kingdom and our single market, and supports the institutions of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement. As I've discussed, my fantastic team of ministers, Vicky Ford, Jessie Norman, Leo Doherty, Zach Goldsmith, Tariq Ahmed, Gillian Keegan, well, we've got plenty to keep us busy. But it is a job worth doing. Promoting global Britain on the world stage. And I know that I speak on behalf of all the ministers and all the diplomats and all the civil servants in the FCDO when I say it is an honour to represent the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland on the world stage, because this is a great country I am proud of, a country I love. Thank you.